I was 15 years old. I was going to Disney World.
8 months old.
I think it was like 3 when we moved from like Virginia to Florida.
My first flight, I might have been around 5.
And what was your favorite sound or a sound that you can think back to at that?
Ding dong before the announcements.
Yeah, the sound of the props, of the propellers.
The engine sound.
Probably like the constant hum of the engine that kind of goes on like through the entire flight.
Please do not leave bags unattended. Welcome to Boston Logan International Airport.
Final boarding call to US Airways Flight 1712.
ご案内申し上げます。本日はダイナスメンバーユナイテッド航空7便。
The boarding door is now closed. U.S. regulations require all large personal electronic devices to be stowed at this time. You may continue to use your small and lightweight devices. Please ensure they are switched to airplane mode or the cellular service is turned off.
Flight attendants, please be seated for departure.
My name is Andrew Hypes. I have only experienced the airline industry as a flyer myself, so sampling sounds from an airline carrier or a cockpit or the ambience of a terminal is something that's all brand new to me. I definitely feel like I hear things a lot different than most people do. One of the main reasons this project sparked my interest was because I, like ATPCO, manage massive amounts of data. And what we both have to do is create a product using innovation that's going to stand out and set us apart from everybody else. When I'm producing, I try to be as innovative as possible. Like ATPCO, you know, when I'm DJing, I have to create an experience for people, you know, that they're going to remember and cater to them, you know, something that stands out, that resonates. In being innovative in what I do and playing the right music, you know, for as long as I play at a night, I have to stand out and I have to catch attention. The thing I like about ATPCO is they've obviously been playing the right music for as long as they have because they're the industry standard, they're leading the industry. We care more about the client, the listener, or the customer. In creating value. It's not about the money, it's just about the experience that we give you and that we bring.
Good morning, everybody. What a great video. I really love that video. We saw it a couple of weeks ago. We did it as part of a marketing hackathon thing. Really interesting. The team went and did those little video interviews, the sounds of aircraft. You know, every now and then we need to be reminded how exciting the industry is that we are all part of. It just is its own language. It transcends, you know, different continents, different people. You know, it's a real pleasure to see stuff like that. For those who don't know, I'm Gianni Cataldo. You may know me from my blockchain article. Beautiful picture there. I'm introducing the panel right now, The Many Faces of Innovation. Speaker 101, don't talk with your back to the crowd. Won't do that again. Okay, so I'm going to bring on 4 panelists who are going to talk about how innovation works in their organization, and hopefully we're going to learn something a little new. So panelists will be, and I'm expecting a panelist slide to pop up now, but it's not, so. Okay, so first up, could I introduce Paul Butcher? He's the Director of Technology, Expedia. Welcome on, Paul. Have a seat. Okay, next up is Danielle Messel. She's founder and CEO of Unboundly. Come on up. Next, we're going to introduce Annika. Annika is VP and head of global suppliers at KDS. Annika, come on board. Sorry, I minced you. grab a water. And then last but not least is Alex. Alex is the data science leader for McKinsey's Travel Product Services. Come on up. Okay. Well, thanks everybody for coming and joining us. So first up, innovation. We're here to talk about innovation, and unfortunately, for all of us, the term innovation is so overused. It becomes the go-to word, and I was almost a little embarrassed to have it up on the stage. So innovation takes lots of shapes, but we see that companies are differentiating themselves. There's winners and losers, and it does seem to be a trend that those that can adopt more innovative practices do well. And I'm really interested to know, one by one, what shape innovation takes in your organization, and how you're using innovative practices to help get ahead of the changes coming and the disruption that's hitting travel. So I think we'll start with Paul.
Thanks, Gianni. So I think at Expedia, we take innovation very seriously, and we do this really just trying to answer and explore the fundamental user experience that the problems we're trying to solve. And we do that through three different methods. And the first is really try to empathize with what the user experience is going to be, or what the product necessities are. And what we have is we've got a team of UX experts, right? And they do some pretty creative things. They will go out and they will visit you at your home. Mm-hmm. They will visit you at your office. And what they're trying to do is try to get a sense of what are the tools, what's the process that you're going through at home, how is it different from work, right? And really how do those experiences transcend to each other, and just really trying to get a sense of what's driving what you do, how you do it, like what you're thinking about it. And the next thing that we do is we've got some usability labs, right? And we've got these all over the globe, and we bring people in to show them our products. Some of them might be existing products, and we're trying to figure out what's not working, or if we want to come up with some different innovative components, we'll expose them to these things, and we'll use tools like eye tracking or electromyography, to try to get a sense of, as we're displaying information, is it confusing to the customer? Do they actually get delight around what they're seeing? So if they see that picture of the nice seat, mm-hmm. do they like that picture? Right. Does it compel them to buy or to explore further? And we try to do this across devices. One of the things that if you're not looking at how are things differentiated between a desktop versus a mobile versus a chat bot versus a voice interactive, you're probably not encapsulating the full realm of things that you need to cover from a user experience.
Cool, interesting.
Yeah. So and since I said we have it around the globe, so we make sure that we're trying to capture all these nuances from a worldwide experiences. How are the requirements different in the Asia Pacific region versus North America versus EMEA? What are some of the other subtleties that you might see come through as part of this testing? And as they complete this research, they come up with thesis, and that kind of drives the next series of mm-hmm. what the innovative approach might be. And that's when it kind of transcends to our product teams. And what the product team is doing is they're taking all of this very complicated discovery that team went through, and they tried to distill it down to the smallest component to try to make the complex as simple as possible. And from that, we come up with what we call the minimum viable product, or your MVP, to say, what are the things that we're going to tackle. And one of the guiding principles that we have at Expedia is that there aren't any bad ideas, right? So we try to throw up as many things up in the wall to see what sticks. They're probably more important to the ideas. It's actually understanding exactly what didn't work and why didn't it work. And if you can't embrace the fact that some of your ideas aren't going to work and try to learn from it, you fail. Right. It really isn't a good culture fit working with us. So we're a big fan of that. And the next piece is really it's the scientific method. Like, how do we go through and how do we iterate around some of the ideas that the product team came up with? We'll look at different things around How does the data kind of support the hypothesis? How can we do innovative things in the platform around how do you optimize shop, response time, all those kind of components. But the critical piece here is that we're taking the scientific method of doing something, testing it, evaluating it, testing it, and really just making sure that as we evolve the product that we're getting better with each iteration.
Really interesting. I mean, so much work going in and those tiny little changes that filter out. Huge impacts, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I did forget to do a little bit of housekeeping at the beginning. I do apologize. You will be able to submit questions to the panelists via your app, and he looks through his phone. So do go into your phones, go into the schedule, look up this session. There's a Q&A. I have the iPad here. As you submit questions, I'll see them. If I deem them good questions, I might ask them. But make them good questions. Danielle, moving on to you.
Yeah.
Same question. How do you see innovation? How do you embrace it? You're a startup. You're part of the new zeitgeist that just makes stuff happen. What does it look like? Is it just in your DNA? It just happens?
I would say it's wonderful to be part of a startup, right? It means that when we started, we were nothing. And so the way we actually started was a blog. We were just getting information from users on the ground. We thought it was going to be a few hundred people that turned into a few thousand people within a few weeks. And the more we understood that there was something they needed and didn't actually see in the current market, we said, okay, let's figure out exactly what it is. What's missing here? So it's been almost 3 years of full research and building, and we did a lot of data-driven development. So we would build a small product, like what you had said, an MVP. Then when you release it to a small number of customers, a couple hundred, we'd see how it, and exactly what you said, we would do eye tracking, we would do clicking, we would follow every single movement that they made. We would record them doing all the things. And we learned a lot from it. So after 3 years, we realized neural networks, machine learning, artificial intelligence of sorts is the most effective way to address not only the current population, but the future populations, right? So we're actually building almost for the future because technology is advancing quantum leaps. If you're not way ahead of where we sit today, you're not really going to be able to stay in line because as things evolve, we're going to keep missing.
Right.
I'm trying to bridge the gap here, right? We're trying to build so that we are connecting to all audiences. And so we built a series of neural networks to basically engage and influence the modern traveler, is what we're calling them. And so that really means that we're giving them personalized discovery of sorts to align their interests with locations around the world to figure out where they can actually go. And we've seen that as basically the most successful thing we've done in all these years. Right. The last release we did, more than 60% of the people that tested the system looked to a different destination than the one they had originally typed in, a destination we recommended to them.
Interesting. Okay, I mean, I'm going to quiz you on conversion rates later, but maybe not. Moving on to Annika. So here we have KDS, very successful European-based company who's got a good, solid corporate base, and you make some great tools. You've been in business for a while, one of the staples of the environment. How do you continue to evolve and take innovation in? How do you see that work in your company?
Yeah, so innovation in the corporate space is slightly different. But Paul almost stole my speech there. Very similar. We use a very similar methodology as well. But in the corporate space, it has so many layers of complexity that we also have to cater for. And from a user perspective, there is not just only the traveler that we have to think about. We also have to think about the travel arranger that is organizing the trips, and also the travel manager and the company, and all around, wrapped around what we do is also the travel policy that dictates what users can do and cannot do in the tool. So we take the approach that we take in terms of testing new ideas, etc. We involve our customers. So we have a strategic focus group that we test new concepts with these customers and gather feedback. And then we go into, let's say, MVP as well, and we test it with a wider group of users. And we use an agile product methodology. So we go, we launch, and then we iterate on an ongoing basis based on that customer feedback. So we do this, I would say, in terms of meeting our customers, we have like the small groups that we meet on a regular basis. But last year we also actually we went a step further. So we met with 40 customers over 40 days and went really, really deep and gathered feedback from our customers as to what they want to see, in which direction and what they want to see change in the product.
Interesting. So very similar techniques and methods being used to understand the consumer in deeper ways. Alex, hey, over there. So McKinsey, right? You do a lot of leadership assistance. You're managing the data science side of the house. How do you, in McKinsey, think about innovation and change that? And then what's the message you bring to companies that use you to consult that?
So, I mean, at our core, what McKinsey does is help leading companies of the world, or those that want to be the leading companies in the world, actually lead. And I think that's twofold. One is ensuring your core operation is in order, and the second is pressure testing whether that's the right operation going forward. So to us, that's innovation, is sort of pressure testing the myths that we rely on as an industry to keep ourselves employed. And so, of course, we've had to innovate ourselves in our engagement model in how we engage and activate our clients. But most of our innovations manifest themselves in what folks in this room are actually, front page changes to the industry, front page pushes into new areas of the value chain. So for us, I mean, what does that mean? It means that we now have thousands of technologists and data scientists and cloud architects and software engineers that actually can help see and implement a recommendation through, because you obviously can't lead from PowerPoint. And so that's an important transformation of our own. But I think the foundational answer to your question is, how is it that we engage every single one of our clients in pressure testing myths? And specifically in the travel industry, we've cataloged dozens of these myths that I think we bring to a number of our conversations. And I took the liberty of jotting down a few of our favorites that I think hopefully can get you guys thinking in your own heads. Are these really true? Are they truisms of our industry, or are they something that really we can think more provocatively about? So just some of my favorites. First, that luxury is about high touch, and that good customer service requires good customer service agents. Something clearly those of you that live in the digital landscape pressure test all the time. Another is that there's too much inertia in the distribution, pricing, and RM technology stack to see a massive pivot. I think that's pretty much the topic of today. So whether or not that's true, I think remains yet to be seen. Number three, that passenger airlines are too capital intensive and operationally complex to be disrupted. Well, notice that I had to say passenger when I say that. So it's, the error is upon us. My personal favorite is that you can't differentiate at a transactional level, that you win the customer with a long-term relationship. And I completely disagree with that. If you look at, as an example, Airbnb and HomeAway, they started out pretty much as the same business. And frankly, HomeAway had the advantage in naming because, at least you can get some sense for what they do from the name. But the big difference was that Airbnb managed the transaction, from shopping to purchase to customer service to review, the full life cycle of the friction-full journey. And I think that's one of the primary areas that we as an industry are ripe for disruption, is if you think of a simple round-trip flight, we spend 3 to 4 hours transacting and administering. So talk about block hours versus flight hours. That's serious schedule padding. So I think what we do time and time again as we engage in discussions with our clients is to focus on what are the myths inside, forget about your organization, the organizations that you serve, and which of those are real truism and which of them are truly myths.
Interesting. Yeah, you got me spinning off on thoughts all over the place now. So, in terms of, all of you have kind of very common themes, in terms of it's become an imperative to understand the user in deeper ways than you've ever had to before. The old paradigm of go offline, design a product, bring that product to market and see how it fares has disappeared. Those days are done, right? It's continually evolving products. And one of the things I always think about, and I talk to a lot of the startups we deal with through Bridge Labs, is, you're making lots of small incremental changes to get somewhere. How do you deal with the big change that has to come, right? Every now and then, some imperative comes in, some competitor. Do you have the capabilities, and maybe also Paul, NDC came along and Expedia had to react, KDS, you guys as well. How do you take on those big poster projects?
Yeah, so I think on our end, we really tried to understand what was driving the industry, what's driving the need. And I think Expedia has been at the forefront of really trying to get in front of NDC to really understand how that's going to transform kind of our technology stack, how is that going to need to transform into our user experience, and really trying to get the alignment within the industry, but also within our company to be prepared for what that's going to look like. The fact of the matter is that there's a big area, it's called NDC, but there are going to be lots of pieces that you can pick and choose on what that implementation looks like. And it's going to transcend every aspect of what the user experience is, everything from how shopping is done to how you fulfill your transaction to how you service your transaction. And probably one of the key things there is it's not just about the customer experience, it's also about all of your systems experiences as well, and making sure that your organization is aligned and prepared to kind of to react to those changes, and really how do you get in front of it so that you're transforming it in an efficient fashion. Right. Being a big global company, that small change can be very expensive, so we're trying to make sure that we're ahead of it.
You get the right bets, you put the right people forward for the right bets. Yeah. So moving on the KDS side, I know you're a Route Happy adopter. Was that a very big project for you to unpack, or is that something that you guys can just take in your stride?
Well, we looked at it. We looked at actually customer feedback. We had a lot of client feedback around the fair shopping and the information provided on the screen, and we identified a number of gaps that we needed to fulfill. And we found that Route Happy could help us to fill those gaps and could fill it very, very quickly. So we introduced, I think within only a few weeks, we managed to get, we introduced the universal ticket attributes, and we launched that. And we're now working on amenities as well to bringing that onto the screen. But it was really, we really looked at what are customers frustrated by, what information is missing, what is it that they want to see on the screen, and what will help them. And that's why we started with the ticket attributes, because that's where we found we had the most complaints, if you like, or gap. Yeah.
And do you now, and that data, do you have an issue now if it's not consistent across all carriers? So why am I not seeing the UTAs on carrier A versus carrier B? Does that lead to new problems?
I believe that there are a few gaps, to be honest, that we have identified, but we're working very closely with Route Happy and ATPCO to. But it is just a point on that piece. It just shows that it is really, really important that the information is correct, that the information that the airlines are loading are correct, because, for instance, it has a massive impact for our end users if it says that a fare is refundable and it turns out not to be, as an example. this is really, really important for us that the information that we get is correct.
And it's really interesting, right? So we have people in the audience here, very focused on data correctness in terms of the fare, the price position, and now we're increasing everybody's lexicon with new terms and new capabilities. And you saw from the Bob chart, we had the X's, right? Same day refundability. If a consumer doesn't know this information, it really breaks this very jarring, and trust is a big deal.
Yes.
And once that's lost, it's very hard to win back. So we all have to raise our game and ensure that if I'm going to be as detailed about how my YQYR, sorry, I do know a bit about travel, taxes work, then I have to be as equally clear with how all those attributes flow through. And this is just part of this ongoing need to improve our content as an industry. So Daniela, kind of on the same thing, but you've got a very closed user group, right? You've got a couple, 300, did I hear you say? So you've basically went to market, teased out some very loyal, dedicated people, and you're essentially using them to refine and enhance your product set. How does that work? How do you find those 300 people?
Well, so like I said, we started with the blog. Sorry, I'm just going through. I mean, we have like 2 million people interacting with us through social channels. So it's not just a few hundred, but what I will say is pretty much in line with what everyone else said. The biggest things we've noticed are, yes, trust and showing people the exact content they need to be able to book. So when you said we were going to bring up conversion rates, our conversion rate is 95%. Because I swear to God,
95%.
We keep going back.
We're a 2% industry, come on.
I know that, and I can tell you why if I have a lot of time. No, but I mean, seriously, we did a lot of studies with users. We're not just looking at how they click, we're actually figuring out how their brain is functioning, the information that we are showing them, and what kind of information is processed more effectively, and what are the times when they decide they are going to drop off. What is it? How do we catch them? And that's what we spent all of our time going back and forth doing. So I will tell you, I know you haven't seen it, our product looks nothing like anything in the industry. Like nothing.
And will there be an opportunity to see your product at this conference?
There will be an opportunity, potentially, yeah.
Bring by the Bridge Lab stall in the pavilion and we'll work something out.
Exactly.
Okay, so Alex, we're talking a lot about data science now. We're getting into understanding the consumer at different levels. This is your sweet spot. How is this industry performing? Are we the leaders? I mean, travel was first online booking. Or are we woefully behind our paperclip sellers at Amazon?
So it's a good question. I think, first of all, our ventures group did a survey and identified $70 billion of venture capital that's chasing disruption in this industry, in and around this industry. $70 billion, that's 1,100 companies, 300 just in analytics and advanced data technologies. Why are they disrupting? Why are they trying to disrupt? Well, I think number one, to your point about customer friction, travel to me is the most personal and most highest anxiety purchase that we make. Think about it. We have the fewest vacation days. We have limited vacation days. There's a ton of crap out there. There's the opacity of the value that I'm going to get. I don't want to get it wrong. So what do we as an industry do? We give you tons of choices. You have 941 properties in Manhattan, right? There's 141 itineraries within 10 minutes of your requested departure time. We include scarcity messaging. Only 2 seats are left at this price. Great, that helps with my anxiety, thank you. So, if you think about it, first of all, we're the world's largest sector. I think we need to start acting like it. I don't think that we do today. Air travel specifically is the second largest growth sector in the global economy. So the reason why $70 billion of venture capital dollars are chasing travel is because it's friction-full for consumers. I think we are potentially not the worst, but I certainly wouldn't say we're the best. And we're sort of biting off pieces of the digital experience, shopping by itself, we're servicing by itself. Digital apps have come a long way for the airlines. I think the big elephant in the room is, think about an unnamed tech giant that decides they want to service, like the Airbnb disruption, they want to service the soup to nuts of the airline industry. They want to service not just the shopping and not just the booking, but if there's disruptions, we rebook you. And we don't rebook you on one carrier, we rebook you on any carrier. We're agnostic to carriers. And we'll take care of all your ancillaries, and we'll get you McDonald's on board if that's your product of choice. So you think about that type of customer experience, that's a disruption. Again, the airlines are not too capital intensive and operationally constrained to be disrupted. So consumers demand it. I think all of us have been wired and conditioned by our other experiences outside travel that are now forcing their way in. The data certainly exists. That's not the big barrier to entry. I think we're getting in our own way.
Okay. Interesting. So, hearing a theme here that maybe presenting lots of options to people isn't the right way to go. We've just spent a lot of investment to price every price point in market and give it to everybody. But I guess it's all about context and understanding.
Yep.
So I've got a couple of questions from the audience here. I'm just going to fire them out to the panel, and whoever wants to take it, just go for it. A couple is really around how innovation works in your companies, and I guess people are trying to work out how it reflects what they do in their companies. So there's a couple of themes here. So is innovation best managed in a central group? Should be a practice? Anybody want to take that?
As a practice or as a central?
A central group, I guess,
It should absolutely be a practice.
Is it the domain of a small number of people that come to your door and say, hey, we're the innovation police, you haven't been innovative today? Yeah.
I think there are a lot of
Submit
ways
your
you can
innovation
do it.
spreadsheet.
Like Google gives all employees whatever 10%, 20% to then go innovate. I mean, the reality is bubbling up inside of an industry, like inside of a company or an industry, is a beautiful thing. Allowing for ideas to come, do cross-pollination across, like if the four of us got together to do an innovative session, we would all have totally different angles that we're looking at things from. So bringing those things together, finding the synergy, finding what exists and could be impactful, that's really important.
Right. Anybody else?
I agree. It needs to be in their culture of what your company is, or else it's not going to be successful.
Right.
The brains of many are stronger than the brains of
departments. It's not sitting in one little part of the company. It's across everything. It's really, as you say, in our DNA what we do.
And it should be.
So Google, you're expected to do X% of your job is just purely innovative. Yeah, interesting. So in terms of the changing complexion of the consumer, right? And I've got this thing, I was at a conference in San Francisco earlier this year, and everybody was telling me they were digital nomads, and I was like, wow, what's a digital nomad? So first of all, what's going on, right? How can we have this new class of person called digital nomads who travel purchasing behaviors totally different than, than my travel purchase behaviors used to be? So how does that work? Anybody want to take a stab at the definition of a digital nomad?
So I'm just going to, sorry, I'm not
sorry,
trying to take
that
this
was
all
like
up. I was just going to say, so Gianni knows this, he threw this at me. I was a digital nomad for about 2 years' time. And I think why people get confused about our spending patterns and exactly what it means to be a digital nomad, we are living and working anywhere, right? We're working from our computers, like 90% of people do, and we're just traveling while we work. So you can work from anywhere. So I lived and worked across 80 plus countries in that 2 year span, and sometimes I would spend months in a place, sometimes it would just be a few weeks for a small part of a project. Designers, developers, and conferences all around the world, because that exists. And so what digital nomads do is they have nomad houses, so to speak. It's like Airbnb, but imagine you're bringing together many innovative folks, right, from all different types of industries, working and living in the same space. Those situations exist all across the world. So WeWork, which everyone should be watching them, is expanding rapidly. They're going to be the largest holder of square footage in New York City. They have the same thing all around the world to serve digital nomads. So digital nomad, just think of a person that's traveling, but living. So they need different things, right? They need basic things. They need a place to live. So what does that mean versus like a hotel? Where can they be living? And they also need the things like insurance, how to buy their products that they are used to, right? I mean, there's lots of different ways you can address them, but just imagine like what you would need, what are the comforts that you're going to be missing from your own home, because that's what the people are seeking.
All right, so we're coming to the close. I'm going to throw a couple of questions out, maybe get a bit rapid fire. Right content, right moment. What does that mean? Who's doing a good job of right content, right moment?
Well,
nobody here ever knows.
No, absolutely. I think the right content within context. So I think it's very important to bring in the right and a full breadth of content in terms of giving users the transparency and giving. So what we did at KDS a few years ago, we took a pretty bold move, and we looked at revamping completely the shopping process. So instead of looking at the kind of the traditional airport-to-airport shopping, we introduced the door-to-door or end-to-end shopping. And in bringing in that end-to-end shopping, that includes a lot more than just an airline. That includes the hotel, that includes how to get to the airport. So you have the ground transportation or car rental, or even public transport included. So that whole, we then look at including everything from the time you leave your house, get to the meeting, and then back home again. That is, and that content, I think, it is absolutely vital to bring in all content into. It's not just about the air and the hotel anymore. It's bringing in everything.
Yeah, and consumers are more sophisticated. They want a shrink wrap solution. Yeah. I'm guessing, right? Alex?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I like the bumper sticker, right content, right moment. If I boil down, the whole point of NDC is right content, right moment. It's to facilitate opaque, private, one-on-one conversations between a customer through whatever channel they want to go through, to the supplier of a product, to get the right content in front of them to help them inform them, make a decision, and it's got to be, of course, the right offer. The right moment and right channel is a given. But I think that the push, by the way, definition of NDC I hear is far more convoluted than right content, right moment. So I would suggest here we adopt that. But I think the point here is is a customer first mentality. It says I cannot aggregate and generalize and brand my products in ways that appeal to sectors or micro segments even. Digital nomads is one example of that. We very highly encourage all of our clients to not over engineer to one customer segment. Particularly, the highest frequent flyer, most loyal customers. 80% of our industry travels, we see them once a year as suppliers. So are they digital nomads? Yes. What does that mean? Is it code word for millennial? Does it even matter? The point is, because they're digitally enabled, they are dropping digital breadcrumbs, and I can then make a more compelling offer, likely through an NDC channel downstream.
Right, and we have a question here from the audience, right? And when do you think mass personalization of travel offers will occur? Right. So we're all hearing themes here. You're all talking about it. Do you have a theme? Do you have an idea in your organizations where that comes to pass?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. So we're talking about right content, right time. We look at it like curation, right? We are curating for each individual customer because they are their own unique individual. Like you're saying, we do not overgeneralize any of that, but we utilize neural networks to be able to do that effectively.
And you have such a diverse customer base, right?
Yeah.
You've got all walks of lives, from small corporate Soho to that. How do you see offer personalization working for Expedia?
It's something that we're spending a lot of time and energy on. It is very complicated. If you were to think about just how many flight options, how many price points you could get just from Seattle to Atlanta, right? People would say, what's that number? And you'd say 10,000. Actually, no, bigger. Million, no. Bigger. Billion, no. It's in the quadrillion different types of price points. So how do you take that massive amount of data, the massive amount of options, and find the right content to put to the right person at the right time in that journey, right? So as you're in the research phase, into the buying phase, there's different amounts of data that you need to be able to find ways of giving to the customer at the right time. It's really hard.
Okay.
Especially when most of it's anonymous shopping.
Yes, of course, right. And you don't ever want to get into that creepy factor like Google does to me all the time, saying, hey, it's usually this time of day you go get a coffee. I'm like, okay, back off. So we're pretty much out of time. We've got 30 seconds on. 2 free words for the audience on innovation. Going to keep you tight. Go.
Fail fast.
Evolve with the customer.
Yes, I think innovation is just ongoing. It's part of what we do every day.
And Alex?
Bust the myths.
Oh, great. All right, thanks everybody. That's been a great panel. Thank you for your time. Audience, thank you for your questions. I'm now going to escort you off the stage.
Wonderful.